Greetings, gentlemen and ladies. I am the Crypto Game Snob, and in today's video I am having some fun with Lara Grimm. Lara Grimm, Spell Thief, not a card that sees much play, but it's just fun. It's just interesting. And hey, here's the thing, guys. I like to play fun. I like to tinker around and monkey around with decks. Some of them work great, some of them work in some situations, some were great for the lulz. This one is actually working pretty darn good. This is up at about 1500 rating, mythic rating, and so far gone 5 for 5 with this deck. It is by no means perfected, but it actually works pretty good already. Let me take a look through it, or rather show you around a little bit, and I'll tell you some of my thinking here, some of the cards that are maybe swappable. But then we'll get into some games, and I'll show you actually just how well this deck can work. First off, a couple of the powerhouses in this deck include Moonlight Charm and Sip from Spring. We also have Jump On for that overkill. We also have Swelling Boon, so there's a lot of big buff cards in this deck. We have a bunch of smaller cards, something like Wild Hog at mana 1. We have Marsh Walkers, we have Black Jags, we have Finian, which is of course another nice buff card. We have the Underbrush Boar, because don't leave your nature deck at home without it, or something like that. Chiron the Teacher. I was recently corrected on how to say Chiron, Chimera, I forget how it is now. Damn it, I even practiced. Anyway, we have a Moon Crazed Cyclops. That's basically your overgrown rhino with the upside of potentially growing and growing. Sporky Piney, or rather Piney Sporcupine. The Spiny Porcupine is who we're looking at here. That is because we want a nice target for something like Swelling Boon, or something like Moonlight Charm, or something like Sip from Spring, and that 4 armor is just awesome, and that 2 counterattack damage to any creature that attacks him. Super cool. So that's just a good potential buff target that comes up. But most probably with this deck we're going to be looking to buff our Marshwalker, our Wild Hog, our oh, and here's a weird one. Like I say, guys, I like to play around with screwy things, here's an interesting one that's probably worse than it is good. Unless it's good, and then it can be pretty interesting. The Peculiar Spell Room. This is a 1 mana 2/6 drop with the extreme downside of pulling a random spell from your opponent's deck and reducing its cost to 1. So, this could be something like, I don't know, this could be something like End Times from 1 mana, right? But here's the other interesting component to that, and the only reason I have Peculiar Spell Worm in this deck is kind of for the potential lulz that could come from combining Peculiar Spellworm with Lara Grimm. This is kind of when I might want to play Peculiar Spellworm, is when I also play Lara Grimm. That way any spell that my opponent plays also happens to, I get a copy of it, basically. And if they play a 1 mana spell that Peculiar Spellworm gives them, well, I get one of those too, thanks to Lara Grimm. So Lara Grimm is very interesting. Basically, if you don't know the card, hidden for 1 turn with backline, and whenever a spell is cast, give a copy of it to the other player. Is this the best card in this deck? Is it perfectly balanced with all of these buff spells? Maybe not, but is it fun, and does it have lots of good lulz and actually seem to work pretty good? Yeah, kinda. I don't know. Like I say, fun experimentation, and I'll show you how some of these games go in just a minute. Yeah, also, what have we got? We have Selena's Insight, again, for the potential lulz. Basically, target one of your creatures to attack a random enemy creature. If it survives, destroy every enemy creature, which is neato, especially considering that we have mainly a lot of cards that are going to be buffed up, right? So most probably this is going to hit something and survive, because we're going to be dealing with maybe 1 or 2 super buffed creatures. And potentially there we're looking at a nice big board wipe from Selena's Insight. That's the idea, that's the fun, that's the lulz. Sudden Bloom also, just because it's a super powerful buff card. So basically we've got a lot of small creatures, a lot of buff cards, and we also have Covetous Cutthroat. Again, because if your opponent has a relic, can you imagine playing this with a Deception relic that's like a 1/4 relic? What's that one called? I forget. God Blitz Flank, I forget the name of it. and you get +4/+4 on 4 mana, and potentially you get this every round, right? Like you get ++. So that's kind of the fun of Covetous Cutthroat. This was recently buffed from 3/3 to 4/4, and I think it has some interesting potential upside. Anyway, most of the things in this deck are just designed to grow and be buffed and get big and get strong. And that's the idea. Laura Grimm for some spell steal shenanigans. And yeah, I'm having fun with this deck. Is it the best ever deck? Is it perfectly balanced? Probably not, and no. But it is a lot of fun, and it's actually doing pretty good so far. So let's take a look at some games. Okay, so we are going to be doing 3 games here today. All of these games occurred at Mythic Rank, FYI, in case you wanted to know. And I guess we're going to synchronize players here. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of tea. I got my Earl Grey here, and first up we're facing up against a light. I can't remember the other 2 gods we go against, but I think each one is different. Anyway, what I'm looking for in the beginning, Moonlight Charm is great, Sip from Spring is great, and something to put that on is also great. I'm going first here, and most probably Light does not have something to clear that pig on the first turn with, so that pig would probably be a pretty good wild hog, rather. Not a pig, it's a hog, and he's wild, alright? He's probably a decent target for the Moonlight Charm to follow. Now here we have a, basically a 50-50 chance. Doesn't matter what I attack, his god or his devoted follower 50-50. So yeah, just throw that into that. Either way, it's good because that's a pain in the ass, that card, that devoted follower with its ward and its strength reduction. Anyway, getting Moonlight Charm ready here. Scale Heavy is good. Scale Heavy is fine. Decide to play Lara Grimm here. And that is mainly, in this case, to deter the potential of Light's Levy, which Light tends to have. Light's Levy on Finnegan would be very nice. It doesn't work as well, of course, when Finnegan gets buffed up. But Lara Grimm is just a great deterrent, right? She's hidden for 1 round. And so any sort of removal or counter your opponent plays, well, you get a copy of that. So it makes it much less appealing to play some of your stronger spells if you have the option to, and you get that upside. Hidden and backline, so she's protected, right? For that first round at least, you're likely to get a spell out of her, probably. And if she gets removed by a spell, you'll get a copy of that spell first, and then that backline means she can potentially stick around for quite a while. So there's some interesting upside. Anyway, I love that Moonlight Charm. Now Finian is actually able to take out the Scale Heavy on his own. That Moonlight Charm is just so strong on the Mooncraze Cyclops, which is also going to get a +1/+1 from the Frenzy. And as you can see, this board is growing very big, very strong. Look at that. We've got 7/7, 1/1, 4/2, and a 1/1 backline with a special ability by mana 4. That's a whole lot of power on the board. He is focused on Finian, which is not really a concern at this point, because Finian is, kind of here and there with all the buff options we've got available. Swelling Boon in hand, etc., etc. But, always good to get Finian off the board so it doesn't spiral too much out of control. Even though, like I say, this deck is really built to spiral out of control. Like, it's got so many components to it that are just meant to get bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. Anyway, looking at Swelling Boon here and thinking to myself, Lara Grimm is probably a good target for this. I'm fearing Impetuous Smite, which destroys the highest strength creature, right? So I'm thinking there's a good chance he could have one of those in hand, and if that were the case, buffing up my Mooncraze Cyclops more and more might not be that good. So I'm going to put Swelling Boon over on Lara Grimm, and there's the downside of Lara Grimm. Now he will also get a copy of that Swelling Boon, but I've already got quite a lot of board advantage, so I'm quite far ahead here at the moment. Not anticipating too much of a problem at this point, anyway. Ah, that's Swelling Boon. That is one of my favorite cards. I'm happy to see it getting into the meta. I used to play it before the Divine Order came out, and I liked it back then. It just never got any play, and now I see it quite a bit more. which is cool. It's cool to have like nature buff decks. They're a lot of fun. Anyway, as you can see, Laura Grimm dropping down that Thyrek Blessing. I don't know how to pronounce that, but basically just giving copies of spells here and there. Now, of course, he's going to get a copy of Jump On when I play it, right? And so then if he plays it, I get another copy of it, and it kind of goes back and forth like this, which makes Laura Grimm a fun card to throw into the mix, right? If it's a fantastic card or not, I don't know. I've been having some pretty good luck with it. Is it the best card ever? It can be situationally pretty good, but one thing for sure about Laura Grimm is that she adds a lot of kind of fun interest to the game. It kind of breaks the pattern of whatever the two decks happen to be. Whenever, you know, casting a spell, your opponent gets one, right? So now I get Jump On back in my hand again, thanks to Laura Grimm, who's growing bigger and stronger and becoming more and more difficult to take off the board every single day. I have that ridiculous Mooncraze Cyclops on the board. I actually probably should have dropped down Rune of Strength earlier on. Well, actually, you'll see in just a second. I do believe I missed a lethal here. I kind of oversighted it, but that's okay. Anyway, overkill on Laura Grimm, and now what I should have done here is drop down Rune of Strength, and I think that would have been lethal. No, it would have been one off lethal. That's what it would have been. Pretty darn close. Yeah. Anyway, the Black Jag is there to, just keep Laura in the back line. Not that there's a whole lot that can be put on the board unless he happens to have Impetuous Smite, which would work very nicely here. But seems like he does not. And there's another Jump On. Like I say, fun and crazy stuff happens when you play Laura Grimm, and now I get another Jump On, right? Back and forth, back and forth. Good game. Okay, next up we have another match against a Light again. We're looking for those low cards, and Moonlight Charm, Sip from Spring is very nice in your opening hand. Just because of that mana refresh and potentially playing another 2-drop right after it and buffing up a card, that can be very, very good when that lines up. Alright, anyway, here we go. So this is nice. This is very nice. 2 Marshwalkers and a Wild Hog, as well as a Sip from Spring. All of that is just very, very nice as an opening hand. So potentially what I can do now is throw the Marshwalker in, pip into Sip from Spring, get the Marshwalker nice and buffed up. He also refreshes 2 mana, and that becomes a big, scary, wide board. This is mana 2, right? Mana 2 plus a pip, and I've got a 3/6, a 1/4, and a 2/3. That's what I would call a clear board advantage very early on. That's the crazy thing about this deck, is you can get some big, wide decks super quick. Order does work very nicely here, though, I will say.
My turn.
And I actually get a little bit skunked on this next turn. Great starting turn, kind of a skunky second turn. I didn't even have anything to play. So that is actually very fortunate. Not for me, but for my opponent. Gives him a chance to get something back on the board. And after such a strong starting hand, you kind of need a bit of a break from the RNG gods. Ba-bum, ba-ba-bow. Watchful Hound. Watchful Hound is a pain in the ass. That's a good card. It's a good card. 3/3, super solid 3/3 that delays your opponents by 10 order. That's crazy, crazy. So here I'm looking at taking out his Axie Girl with my Marshwalker,
We all have our limitations.
or potentially triggering it with a Selena's Mark and saving my Marshwalker, dropping down the Wild Hog. It's kind of what I'm thinking I might do here. And that works out. 50-50. Sometimes that's a good way to go. So Wild Hog is very nice here because it takes care of the Watchful Hound, which then frees up my Marshwalker. And my cards are back in play. Still haven't got a great opportunity to really play the Covetous Cutthroat on a big stacked relic, but it's going to be fun when that finally happens. Imperious Smite, Impetuous Smite. I think I was calling it Impetuous Smite, Imperious Smite. So Peculiar Spellworm, like I say, nice big 1 mana 2/6, but pulls him at 1 mana cards, so I don't really want to play this in this particular situation. I'm just going to leave it in my hand. Maybe I'll pull Lara Grim, and then Peculiar Spellworm becomes a lot more interesting. So that's kind of what I'm thinking at this point. Light's Levy, yep, that's a good one. That's a strong card. Certainly turns the tide. So it would be very nice here to trigger the Frenzy for the Moonlight Cyclops. That being said, you never ever want to let Light build up a board. Light builds up a board of tiny weak little creatures that you're likely to ignore, drops down a nice big buff, and suddenly you got no shot. So you always need to stay on top of Light. I was hoping to get some overkill damage, and it looks like that actually worked out pretty well. I got the buffed up Cyclops. And, yeah, that's it. Oh, those order mechanics. Oh, those order mechanics. It's nice that Light gets its own mechanic, though. I guess Deception gets a lot of order as well, but it's nice that Light gets something. Some sort of something to play with. Anyway, here, Lara Grim is kind of fun, right? Peculiar Spellworm, Lara Grim. There's some potentially fun LOLs that could happen out of that. Worst case scenario, I get a nice big 2/6 on the board. He gives me a spell, right? Like, he gets a great spell, but he also gives me a great spell. And that's the nice thing about Lara Grim plus Peculiar Spellworm. And that's, like I say, the reason that I comboed these two. So now I actually get a copy of that 1 mana, or rather 3 mana, Light's Levy, because he didn't get that one for free, or from the Peculiar Spellworm. And I only lose a 1 mana creature out of it. I'm not sure what else he got. I forget. But Divine Judgment, that's very nice. Takes out the Mooncraze Cyclops, but also gives me a Divine Judgment. Not that that's going to help much, because I can't really put order on creatures. But that Imperious Smite is nice to get in hand for 1 mana. Very nice. Very interesting, right? So Lara Grim, yeah, interesting card. For the lols, right? Anyway, doing a little bit of math in my head here, right? Because I've got enough cards to do something good here. Light's Levy, Imperious Smite, Covetous Cutthroat. There's a bunch of good options, plus Selena's Mark. But there's a bit of math to do. He's got quite a few cards on the table. Light's Levy removes 1 and gives me 1. That's always a nice trade. I was looking for a better option here. Couldn't really find a fantastic option, but we did get on the board. We did get kind of an established board presence, cut down a decent amount of his board, and we've got some good options for the next turn. Underbrush Boar, we've got Imperious Smite, etc. There goes Lara Grim, unfortunately, but at least I do get 1 more Light's Levy out of it. So Lara Grim has definitely paid her way in this whole game. Ba-doop-ba-doop-ba-doo. Oh, there's a fast forward button. Alright, there we go. Ritual Rod. And a whole lot of disciples. Acolytes? Acolytes, I forget. Acolytes or disciples. Bum, bum, bum. So we do Light's Levy on one. We've got Imperious Smite, we've got Underbrush Boar, and we have a bunch of cards on the table. It should be entirely possible to basically clear his entire board in this turn, and he's got nothing buffed up yet, which is good. But, you know, next turn he could drop something and buff everything up, so that would be very, very bad. Make me cry. It'd be very heartbreaking. But yeah, there we go. That's a entire board clear. A little bit of healing.
For now, I must rest.
But there you can see the Covetous Cutthroat is so neat because his Ritual Rod just gave it a nice 2-2, right? That's kind of fun. Fun about Covetous Cutthroat. Goodbye, Covetous Cutthroat. It was nice for a while.
My turn.
But thanks to Laura Grimm, we have the perfect answer to the nice stacked 5/5 that just appeared on the board for 1 mana even. Perfect. So here I'm eyeing up Mooncry's Cyclops. I'm also eyeing up Covetous Cutthroat. And the reason for Covetous Cutthroat here is mainly just to give him something to focus on, right? If he doesn't make an attack with his relic, and the thing is with Shield Maiden, he kind of has to do something with his relic if he doesn't want the Covetous Cutthroat to continue to be buffed up. It's kind of like in his best interest now to get rid of that relic, even though it's not a very good trade up against the Shield Maiden.
Answer the call.
Otherwise, Covetous Cutthroat keeps getting bigger, so that's kind of why I dropped Covetous Cutthroat in that case. Anyway, that's it. Good game. Anyway, that's it. Hope you have enjoyed this game. I had a couple of more recorded up against Magic and War. Unfortunately, when I was recording them, I was exporting video, and so they saved very choppy, so I'm not going to bother with those. Anyway, this video is already 20 minutes, so I reckon that's long enough. See you all in the next video.